Welcome back to my Jewish cooking and baking show where we learn how to make all my childhood favorites. Today we're making babka, and not just babka, we're making a chocolate babka, which is by far the most superior babka flavor. If you guys aren't Jewish and you don't know what a babka is, I'll try to explain it to you. It's basically like a sweet bread with like a dessert filling in the middle. We're actually gonna make two babkas. We're gonna make one just classic chocolate babka, and then we're gonna do another chocolate babka, but with rainbow sprinkles on top, because I'm giving it to my friends that are getting engaged. So just a little something to celebrate their engagement. I went ahead, put on an apron, and gathered all our ingredients for us to get started. So the first thing we're gonna do is measure out our flour. If you have a food scale, I would highly recommend using it. And if you don't have one, I would highly recommend getting one, just because everyone's measuring cups are different. And if you really wanted to get into baking, like a food scale is just gonna change your life. I have this cheap one from OXO. I think it's only like $25. It works pretty well. I set up my iPhone so you can get kind of like a bird's eye view. We're gonna start off by weighing out 750 grams of all-purpose flour. I'm just using the one from Trader Joe's. I think this is the cheapest one. I think the best thing to do is just weigh out your flour into your standing mixer. If you don't have a standing mixer, you could make this, but it's just gonna be so much manual labor. I would highly, highly not recommend doing this by hand. Now I'm just using like a plastic deli container to measure out the rest of our ingredients. And that is so I don't accidentally add too much into our stand mixer and then you have to fish it out. I'm gonna go ahead and add in 100 grams of sugar. I honestly don't know if there's 100 grams in here. We're gonna see. So we are a little bit short. I have about 65 grams of sugar. So this is just gonna be like slightly less sweet, but I think that's gonna be okay. Now I'm adding in 18 grams of instant yeast. There's two types of yeast, instant and active. I would always recommend using instant yeast if you can. Active yeast is just a lot more difficult to use. The water has to be a certain temperature. Instant yeast is a lot more forgiving, so I would definitely try to use recipes with instant yeast over active if you can. Now I need to add in 15 grams of salt. I always use Manischewitz kosher sea salt. I mean, I'm making babka, I have to use Manischewitz. Now I need to add in 142 grams of room temperature unsalted butter. I have some here. I don't think this is gonna be close. I think we have to take out more. Okay, so that's like 80 grams. I have more. This is a little bit frozen, so in order to speed this up, I'm just gonna microwave it for a little bit. I always like to cube my butter before I melt it. I don't know if that's really necessary. Well, we're not melting it, we're just gonna soften it. This is just a habit I have from working in bakeries. So I'm just gonna microwave that for 30 seconds, but I'm gonna check it halfway through because we don't want the butter to be melted. We just want it to be soft. If it's melted, that's no good. I think this should be good. This is what it looks like. I think if I had kept it in any longer, it would be like a little bit melted. So this is perfect. Okay, we're almost done. We just have a couple more things to add. Next, 2 eggs. If you really want to avoid shells, I would recommend taking your eggs out like 15 or 20 minutes before and making sure that they're room temperature. That really helps prevent the egg from cracking. I'm just gonna crack them into a different bowl so that, if there are shells, we can just pick them out. No shells. How lucky am I? Okay, next, we need to add in some water. 340 grams of warm water. I don't know for babka that the temperature really is super sensitive, so I usually just do like lukewarm. There's a whole science to baking when it comes to like what temperature your water should be, but as long as you're using instant yeast, it's not, you know, super specific on what your temperature has to be. Finally, our last ingredient, vanilla. We're just gonna add in 15 grams of vanilla extract. I have all my ingredients here, and now we're just gonna mix this using our dough hook attachment. While this is mixing, I'm gonna start boiling some water so that we could use that for proofing. And you'll see what I mean in a couple minutes. Our babka dough has been mixing for about 5 minutes, but I think it still needs to mix a little bit more. But in the meantime, my water finished boiling and I went ahead and poured it into a cake tin. And I'm gonna move this into my oven, and that's really gonna help with the proofing conditions of my oven. This is what your babka dough should look like when you're done. It will still be very sticky, like you will need to use a silicone spatula to try to get most of it out, but that's okay. So I'm just gonna make sure that I adequately scrape down the sides. No babka dough left behind. This smells so good. Oh my god. I can't wait to eat this. It's gonna be so good. Okay, so I got most of it into the bowl. We still have a lot we need to scrape in. If you liked playing with Play-Doh as a kid, then this is the perfect side project for you. I got most of our dough into our bowl. And now I'm just gonna cover this with plastic wrap and let it proof for an hour. Okay, so I have our babka dough covered in plastic wrap. And we're just gonna put this in the refrigerator above our boiling water. Okay, and now we just have to wait for it to proof an hour and we can actually start assembling our babka. Very exciting. If you don't want to do this all in one day, your alternative could be to put the babka dough in the refrigerator and then let it proof overnight. I do that a lot sometimes too, but I really just want to get this done in one day. So I will see you guys in a half hour. A little over an hour, so we can finally start shaping our challah. Or not our challah, our babka. Sorry, I'm a little bit frazzled because I did go out and do some errands while it was proofing. I realized I don't even have 2 loaf pans. So I bought a second loaf pan. This was the only one they have. It's ceramic coated metal loaf pan. So the other loaf pan I have is just like a metal one, so these might cook differently. So we're just gonna have to keep an eye on that. This is how our dough looks. It looks pretty big. So I'm just gonna clean off this surface, put some flour down, divide these into 2, and then we can shape them. But before we do that, we have to make our fillings. This filling is relatively easy to make. We just need a couple of things. Oh, I'm gonna have to go out and get more sugar because I have no sugar left. Actually, you know what? I do have this raw sugar. We could try that. Hopefully that's okay. I really don't want to go back to the store. To make my filling, I'm gonna go ahead and whisk together cocoa powder, sugar, salt. Yeah, I think that's it. Just those 3 things. So I'm gonna start off adding in 200 grams of sugar. Now I'm adding in 56 grams of cocoa powder, a little bit of salt, and now we're just gonna whisk this together. I have a lot of clumps of cocoa powder in here, so you wanna make sure you get rid of those. This is what it should look like once it's whisked together. And now I'm gonna pour in my melted butter. I'm gonna use a silicone spatula to mix it together. Now that the filling is ready to go, we need to divide our dough into 2 separate pieces and then roll it out and shape our babka. I'm gonna take off my engagement ring for this because it's kind of a messy process. You should always lightly flour your surface just because, especially with this dough, it is pretty sticky. We do need to weigh this just to see, where we should cut. I've divided our dough into 2 separate pieces. I'm just gonna go ahead and put one aside for now. And now we're good to start rolling this out. Okay, I finished rolling it out. It's not like a perfect rectangle. It's kind of hard to get it to be a perfect rectangle, but it's pretty close. And if you can have the shorter side facing you, I think that makes shaping it a little bit easier. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and use an offset spatula to glide on about half of this filling. You wanna make sure that you leave about an inch all around your babka. I'll show you on my phone so you can actually see. So it should look like this, you know, you wanna try to keep filling off the sides here. Before you actually get to shaping your babka, I would really highly recommend putting in a piece of parchment paper in between your loaf pan. If you have like a spray, non-stick spray, you could spray it behind the parchment paper so it sticks better. I don't have that right now, so we're just kind of hoping this works. We are finally ready to slice our babka in half and shape it. When you do this, sorry, I should have mentioned this earlier, you want to make sure that the seam of your babka is facing upwards towards you. And this is what it should look like. Now we need to proof this for another like hour and a half, and then we can finally bake it. Before we proof our babkas for the second time, I went ahead and just boiled some new water because the water that was in the cake pan before wasn't really as hot. But I have both of them here. Look how good they look. I'm so excited for these. Now I'm just gonna proof them the same way. For this second round of proofing, I normally proof it for an hour and a half, but I'll check it in an hour and see how it looks. It's finally time to put our babkas in the oven. This is how they look. This one is definitely like a little bit puffed up more. I think this is slightly smaller than my other loaf pan, maybe by like an inch or half an inch. I just preheated the oven to 350 and normally it takes about 30 minutes. When it gets to 30 minutes, I just go ahead and check the bread's temperature. I know, it's kind of a lot. Like before, if you had asked me, oh, like how is it making babka? I'd be like, oh, like it's, you know, pretty easy. I feel like I have it down. But now that I've actually taken the time to like break it down and explain like every little thing I'm doing, I'm like, okay, you know what? This is kind of a lot. Like, my neck hurts, my back is kind of tired. But you know what? It's all gonna be worth it in the end, I promise. Our babka is almost done. And while we're waiting for it, we need to go ahead and make simple syrup to brush it on top. So I'm just gonna do that really quickly. You only need 2 ingredients for that, just water and sugar. So I'm just gonna go ahead and weigh out 150 grams of sugar directly into my pan or pot. Oh my god, I'm so tired. I'm like, can't remember the right words for things. Now I'm gonna go ahead and add 90 grams of water and we're just gonna cook this down on the stove. Our babkas are finally ready to come out of the oven, which is super exciting. Now we just need to let them cool. And then once they cool, we're just gonna paint them with the simple syrup that we just made. They look really, really good. Like, what? I just realized I totally forgot to mention this, but you know when the babka's done when you take its temperature and it reads 200 degrees. I'm literally just using this instant read thermometer from Costco. I don't think it's super expensive, but this is super important, especially when it comes to making breads, because you really don't want to be cutting into the babka while it's still cooking. You need to let it cool. So you really just can't do it unless you have one of these instant read thermometers. We are so close to being done with our babka. All we have left to do is coat this with our simple syrup. I'm using this pastry brush that I got from Restaurant Depot, but you can also use a silicone one. This just really helps the babka from getting dried out. Okay, now we are actually done. That was a lot of fun, but keep in mind if you do try this, it will take up an entire day. This is the final product. I feel like this could be a good thumbnail. Thumbnail. Anyways, I hope you guys give this a try. I would be so honored if you used my recipe. Well, really, it's not my recipe. It's King Arthur baking, but I do make, you know, my own little modifications. And I will see you in my next video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment. Okay, that's it. Bye.